And we have once again with us Kathleen Norton-Schock, who, gosh, has been on the show for years talking about the Michigan Council of Women in Technology. So we're going to let her talk about whatever the latest events are, what are the latest programs, what's looking like things to do in the fall.
Yeah, so it's good to see you guys. It's been a few months. We've had some really, we had a great summer, lots of camps as usual, lots of activity surrounding the girls. And now we're launching into the fall and the early winter, and that for us is a concentration on other kinds of events and certainly on a little bit of fundraising, continued fundraising as well. So, yeah, let's jump right into it. We had some great news about 60 days ago. Lori Koza is our new executive director, Mike, and I think you reached out to her, and hopefully you two will chat. If not, I'll try and introduce you. But she's been a longtime member of MCWT, and she took over the slot that Dr. Caldwell had left. So we have no more vacuums at the top. Judy Asher continues to be our president this year. And she's, again, a 20-year member of MCWT and got Women of the Year. I think it was 2019. Um, very active. She's just left Baxter Healthcare to go to another healthcare IT role, IT leadership role. But she spent a few months as we were getting Lori on board, pulling us all back together and getting everything going. So right now, most of our leadership, including our boards, this is the week for strategic planning for next year, right? Because we have, as I said, a very full fall and winter set up. Also, by the way, gentlemen, happy eve of Women's Equality Day. I'm sure you're both looking forward to celebrating that tomorrow, where we all celebrate 105 years of the 19th Amendment being signed to the U.S. Constitution, which, I don't know, a century and a half after it should have happened, finally gave women the right to vote.
Yeah, my
105 years
grandmother was
ago.
a suffragette, so I have one of her pins in my collection, votes for
Okay,
women.
great. Great. That does not surprise me, Mike,
Uh,
at all. But and we've been making progress, and as you know, our overall mission for MCWT, which I've been involved in for 2 decades plus, has been to make Michigan the #1 state for women in technology. But in general, of course, that's to give both women and girls more opportunity, and certainly our sponsors and allies more talent, right? So that we can continue to empower Michigan. There is still around the whole Women's Equality Day, though. I don't know if you guys know this, but we have made progress. I remember when women only had less than 10% of the C-suite. Now we're at around 29% of C-suite roles in this country, which is definitely progress. And 39% of middle to upper management roles, which, by the way, has gone back a little bit over the last couple of years for whatever reason. But the World Economic Forum, which had said it would take us, I don't know, a couple of, like 30, 40 years for women to achieve parity, is now saying that white women, at least, are projected to reach parity in corporate roles in about 22 years. Women of color, on the other hand, that is almost doubled if you were to look at what's happening today. So, of course, while we want to make Michigan the #1 state for women in technology, we are all about supporting and empowering women, as are most of our allies and friends. So there are 2 special programs going on that we have some registration dates coming up very quickly. The first of those is Elevate. Elevate is a level up program. It's called Elevate Level Up, by the way. It's a dynamic 6-month program. It's a leadership development program aimed at women in tech who maybe feel frozen or maybe at some point in their career where they need some help. And essentially, what we're doing is we're going to have a series of leaders and experts and coaches involved in the program to work with the women who register so that they can feel comfortable at the end of the 6-month period that they can lead with more confidence, more clarity, and purpose. It's designed for individual contributors, current managers, and emerging leaders alike. And it's very transformative. We've run it now for a few years, and most of the people who have gone through, we get a lot of success stories out of those. So I would suggest that if anybody's interested in that, they go to www.mcwt.org, touch the programs key, and it's number one on the program key right now, on the program page right now. And the date for registration, we're really pushing it this month because the program itself begins to kick off around September 10th, which is coming up rapidly. So I would suggest that people take a look at that. And again, in that whole area of empowering women, and particularly women who eventually want to move into leadership, we also have a program called Reignite. There's a really strong statistic about women having dropped out of the workforce at points, but particularly having dropped out of technology for whatever reason over the last 15 to 20 years. So this program supports women returning to the workforce or making a jump from wherever they are. They could be in retail, they could be in manufacturing, but in some different level, not in IT, jumping over and transitioning into tech. So it offers a lot of growth opportunities for an evolving industry. And obviously a very high demand industry. So essentially, I would suggest that people who are interested in Reignite also go to that very same page, mcwt.org, go to programs. Deadline date for that is middle of September, and it kicks off middle of September. So those are two really interesting programs. We also, of course, are very active with WOMSAT. They are one of our collaborators. So there's a Women in Cybersecurity program that'll launch toward the end of the year, and we'll be doing that in conjunction with WOMSAT itself. And then in terms of events coming up, there's we have bi-monthly volunteer information meetings because we tend to be an organization that's very lean and mean, and we have been powered since I've joined by volunteers. So every couple of months we have a volunteer information meeting. And again, if you go to mcwt.org and to events, you can register for that. The date is September 11th. It is virtual at noon. So we try and make it very easy for anybody to jump in and ask questions ahead of time or during the 1 hour session. And then there's another one of those that'll be occurring in November 13th. So if you can't make the one that's coming up very quickly on September 11th, mark your calendars for November 13th. Also, speaking of collaborators, because I just did, we are part of Tech Week Grand Rapids, and we are collaborating with very strong organization. You know, as you guys probably know, I'm sure you've seen it in our press releases. SIM, this is Society for Information Management, which is very active here in Michigan. They also have a section of that called Women SIM members, and most of the people there tend to be members of both organizations, MCWT and SIM. And SIM every year, as part of their fundraising, does a grant for MCWT. Typically, that will help us sponsor scholarships. So with them, we are also going to be at Michigan Tech Week in Grand Rapids, and we're sponsoring a dynamic speaker, Daphne Jones. You can go to LinkedIn and look her up. But she's she's a technology woman, a technology leader. And she just does, apparently she's been on the TED Talk stage several times. And we are sponsoring her along with SIM. And we'll also obviously have a table there in order to register more people who want to know more about us. And then on the fundraising side, we're doing something called Grand Slams for Giving, where we're doing a fundraiser with the Detroit Tigers, and that's going to take place on September 20th. And if you want to register for that, I'd suggest doing it very quickly because registration tends to be running out almost as I speak. And then finally, because we only have 4 more minutes, I'd be remiss if I didn't talk about the IT prom. This year, we're calling it the Celestial Ball, which is our 17th annual Celestial Gala. So we'll be out there in the stratosphere raising money for MCWT and our scholarship programs and our camps and Reignite and every single thing that we do. And there's, our Connect Nets, our tech talks, all of them. We tend to fund those through sponsorship of various events like golf. We We raised quite a bit of money, over $500,000 at golf. We're looking to raise money again at the Celestial Ball. It'll be taking place again at MGM Grand Detroit on November 1st. So hopefully we're avoiding hunting season this year, because sometimes we do lose some of our allies who like to hunt. I mean, it is the Midwest, right? And this year's major sponsor is Borg Warner, and this is their first year for being the grand sponsor. But we have sponsorship berths for easily 40 to 45 companies and organizations. And those go very rapidly because as part of that sponsorship, you get a table, you get the opportunity to hang out with us, hear the band, drink the wine, have tremendous food, and seriously hobnob with people at all levels of the IT industry in Michigan. So I would strongly suggest that if you're interested in doing a sponsorship for the Celestial Ball, which will take place on November 1st, you go to MCWT.org, go to events, and there's a place to register. But there's also a place where you can send your email in and say, hey, I'm interested in one or more of these sponsorships. But they tend to go year to year. We often get the very same companies doing the same ones. So there'll only be a few probably available. So if you're interested in sponsoring, go there now. She said.
No, you know.
All right. Well, speaking, you spoke of scholarships before. Today is the first day of class at many universities and K-12 school districts today. So if people are interested in learning more about MCWT scholarship opportunities, where do they go for that?
Exactly. You go to www.mcwt.org. You touch the button that says programs. You touch the one that says K through 12 if you're interested in middle school girls or even younger, right? I mean, some of our we go from 5th to 8th grade. I guess that is mainly middle school, and then we do high school programs. But then, of course, there's its own separate place to register for the scholarship program, which will kick off. We'll be actively promoting at the end of this year. And then, as you know, most of the applications typically have to be into us by January. We had a great scholarship year this year. We gave away close to 30 to 40 scholarships again, some of them independently sponsored by some of our sponsors, some of them sponsored by ex-MCWT presidents, and some of them just sponsored in general by MCWT.